Well, Mark Carney is getting desperate and wants you and your family to invest in his liberal sinking ship. Today, he announced the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And in speaking to finance guys and also looking at people who have some sort of intelligence on social media, calling this for what it is, they describe it as lipstick on a pig and be prepared to lose everything you invest in Mark Carney's new idea. While BlackRock gets richer off being a part of all these investments and new projects, he wants your mom who owns land, the liberal boomer who is brainwashed and voted for him. Well, now he wants them to invest in his patriotic scheme. The thing is, though, they could lose it all, and he doesn't really want people to actually look at what's going on. Let me show you the video that he put out, as well as what people are saying on Twitter and the Taxpayer Federation is saying. And the fact that he's trying to compare this to what Norway's doing shows just how desperate the liberal sinking ship is, and they want to take your last cent with them. Okay, I'll show you a quick clip of what he's trying to feed everybody, and then you can see what's actually going on after that.
A sovereign wealth fund is essentially a national savings and investment account. It's designed to grow wealth for future generations of Canadians. Many countries that are blessed with natural resources, like Norway, have sovereign wealth funds. Canada hasn't had one until now. The new Canada Strong Fund will give all Canadians a direct stake in building Canada strong. Now, to be clear, just like with the construction of the Canadian Pacific Railway 150 years ago, Canada's major projects will mostly be built by private companies. And just as in the 1870s, the federal government will support these projects through loans, grants, and other incentives. And we do this because these projects have wider benefits to our economies, benefits that exceed the private return.
Oh, and I forgot to mention he already gave 25 billion of our tax money into this fund first. And then he wants you to pay for the rest, but you might lose your wealth. That's the thing. Very bad investment. No way my investor person would ever let me invest in this.
Returns. I'll give an example. Expanding the port of Montreal at Contrecoeur will unlock new markets for thousands of Canadian businesses and create hundreds of thousands of jobs for Canadian workers. So until now, while those wider benefits flowed to the Canadian economy, flowed to our country, the financial returns of the projects themselves flowed only to those who built and ran them. That changes today. When the CPR was built, the government of the day granted a private monopoly to the company. Today, to create wealth for Canadians today and our kids tomorrow, the Canada Strong Fund will invest alongside the private sector in nation-building projects on a fully commercial basis. We will begin with an initial endowment of $25 billion. Over time, the fund will grow through asset recycling and reinvestment, creating even greater opportunities for future generations. We will also do something else that's new and important. For those Canadians who want to participate in an even more direct way, we will make it easy for individual Canadians to invest in the fund and therefore own a small piece of nation-building projects and share in their returns. The fund will be professionally managed and operate as an arm's-length independent Crown corporation. And we'll consult over the coming months on the specific aspects of the fund. But one thing is sure, it will be accessible to everyone, not just a few.
So he is willing to even rip off those people that can't afford to lose anything. This is the worst thing to invest in. I've talked to people this morning. This is super risky. And as Brookfield gets richer off being involved in all these projects, he wants the Canadians to invest in And this is why you have to understand that he is so sleazy and deceptive. This is not a wealth fund. This is debt. You are investing in debt. He just put us 25 billion more in debt and he wants you to get involved in this debt. Let's go onto Twitter, but first let's look at what the Canadian Taxpayer Federation said about this. Franco Terrazzano from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He says Carney did not create a sovereign wealth fund. He announced a debt fueled corporate slush fund. The government is more than 1 trillion in debt and Carney will borrow 25 billion more, dump it into a fund, then gamble your money on risky corporate handouts.
Carney wants you to think he just created a sovereign wealth fund. Carney did not. Okay. Carney just created a debt fueled corporate slush fund. Okay. So here's what's going on. Carney just made an announcement, Canada's first ever sovereign wealth fund. No. Here's what's going on. The government is already more than $1 trillion in debt. And Carney just announced he's going to borrow another $25 billion to dump into this new fund. And then the fund is going to subsidize Canadian companies. That is not a sovereign wealth fund, okay? That is a debt-fueled corporate slush fund that gambles taxpayers' money, your money, on corporate welfare. Okay, the whole point of a gold standard sovereign wealth fund like Norway's is to save money, right? Norway saves its oil revenue into its sovereign wealth fund, and then it invests the interest and only invests that interest in projects abroad, right? To help with diversification, to guard against politicians dumping, wasting money on corporate welfare or their own pet projects. In stark contrast, okay, Carney's corporate slush fund is built on borrowed money, $25 billion of borrowed money, and then is going to subsidize Canadian companies, picking winners and losers in the Canadian marketplace. Again, this is not a sovereign wealth fund, right? The whole point of a sovereign wealth fund is to essentially use budget surpluses to save some of that money. Okay, this is borrowing another $25 billion. Look, the debt is out of control. Interest charges on the debt are already costing taxpayers more than $1 billion every single week. Carney should not be dreaming up new ways to borrow billions more and risk your money on corporate welfare.
Okay, let's take a look at what some more people are saying on Twitter. And I did speak with someone this morning who looked into it and was like, I can't believe he's calling this a wealth fund. And you know what? I hope that the people that voted for Carney and thought that more liberalism is going to actually help this country after what Trudeau did to this country with Carney being his advisor, the people that actually are the elbows up retards. I hope they invest in this. And then they can see in 10 years that that was a mistake. Let them. Let all those people say, I blindly trust the liberals. I blindly trust a banker whose most of his investments are in other countries, but most of you already know that. But let's invest in this banker who didn't even really live in Canada, who screwed up Europe while he gets richer off of Brookfield when he resigns as prime minister or when he's ousted. He's going to be a richer man because of what has happened in Canada. So a lot of people are calling him out for this. Let's look at the hilarity of Twitter right now. So Twitter's full of comments like this. It's the next embezzlement scheme. Voters rewarded them with more power when they stole 8 billion from the Green Fund. Do you remember that? I did a show on the Green Slush Fund. Where did the money go? And this person says, why wouldn't they go bigger? Rob Vendetti, I can quickly think of 15 other places to invest rather than this fund. Wayne Gudbranson, it is possible that some Canadians may not know the difference. Pro Canadian says, I'm hoping the MSM gets it right. But then again, in the press conference, Carney asked CTV to explain it to the public. Pretty sure that was veiled threat regarding funding. Do you know who's going to profit from that sovereign wealth fund? Brookfield and Carney's cronies. That's who's going to benefit, not Canadians. Like, this is pure risk. You have to be this patriotic person that wants to give up your savings to put into this in hopes that in 10 years you might see a dime. And don't forget that we are locked with Indigenous protesting these investments. So the same reason why companies don't want to invest here right now, You literally are going to be affected personally by every time the indigenous start protesting these projects, which they're doing more and more. They're extorting BC, they're extorting and blackmailing David Eby, as we know right now. And this guy does not know what he's talking about if this is anything like the sovereign wealth fund in Norway. No, people are saying it's not because Norway actually has wealth. They're investing their excess. That's not what Carney's doing. That's why people are like, I don't even understand this. And when I actually watched mainstream news kind of talk about this morning, even they had look of like, I don't get it and fear. And here's another one. This is reverse Robin Hood, borrowing 25 billion so the rich can profit while ordinary Canadians pay the crushing interest and are priced out by soaring costs and unemployment. Pure class warfare. And here it says this is not a sovereign wealth fund. It's hard earned taxpayer money and making us give it to an unknown investor, stockbroker that we don't know or trust to manage as a stock portfolio, making them king to decide who to give our money to. If you think windmills or funding LGBTQ skiers in Lebanon, real example, is a ridiculous investment, too bad. As Carney said, the fund will not be strictly investing in projects deemed in the national interest as described under the Building Canada Act. This is the WEF globalist corporate totalitarianism. Here it says one pocket pays interest, the other pocket charges you interest. Financial net zero. Sandy says one day Canadians will wake up to what this scoundrel's up to. Grandma Bear says here he is sucking Canada dry. I think we should personally ask how much he himself is going to invest in this wealth fund. And there's politicians and MPs and finance guys calling this out. Shane Parrish says here a sovereign wealth fund in name only. The fact that he called it a wealth fund, shame on him. It's a debt fund. And yeah, a lot of people are actually comparing this to the infrastructure bank fund that was done under the Trudeau government that is also a disaster. Says here replaced execs after audit. They aren't telling us details of each dollar, where it went. MPs asked 9 weeks ago for audit of 186.7 billion in infrastructure bank spending. Cabinet objected to audit, lost vote in the Commons. And the cabinet's replaced top management of the Crown financed Canada Infrastructure Bank only 9 weeks after MPs ordered the audit of all federal infrastructure spending. The Prime Minister gave no explanation. If they know, they aren't telling us. Our country's become just an absolute grift off the backs of people. So this Derek guy on here has a good point. This is all to subsidize all the GFANS Brookfield net zero losses. Most of these projects haven't had to declare their losses yet because their valuations are based on imagined future return. Even Carney said, eventually you will reap the benefit if, these investments in these projects go well. Once people realize there is no future return, they'll all plummet, but after we invest. He wants your granny who has that house that's paid off to invest in the future of Canada. And this Jennifer person is kind of like on the fence. 100% debt for sure, but let's hope the return is greater than the cost of the debt. That's pretty much it. Worst idea for an investment if you actually want to for sure make money. Oh, and this one's perfect. This guy says low IQ wage earner. I have 50,000 of non-mortgage debt, mainly on credit cards. I think I'll put some of my paycheck in a savings account. Carney, federally and provincially, has 2.5 trillion debt. I think I'll put some tax revenue into a sovereign wealth fund, basically making fun of him. And Marielle says this is a scam. There is no money for this fund, and there will be no money for this fund until the multi-generational debt has been paid. The fact that Carney actually thinks that the majority of Canadians are this retarded is just, it's so degrading. It's so degrading the way he talks to Canadians. The Liberal government has spent us into a hellhole. We're all feeling it now with inflation. Do you know that we have the highest food inflation of all the G7 countries? Everybody has inflation, but we have the highest. They're taxing us to the hills. They're spending, spending, spending. They're spending a ton of our money in other countries for ridiculous things. And then he says, hey guys, but can you start coughing up more because of the situation that us liberals have put us in? And this Jerry Ritz fellow, he's a retired member of parliament. Oh, he follows me. A former AG minister, director for DominionBlockchain.com, improving prosperity for AG families through tech. He says, borrow to create wealth? In what universe? This is the best an acclaimed international banker can do? And Jonathan here says government borrowing pushes out capital from private sector, raises interest rates, decisions made by bureaucrats, nothing good. I actually feel like Carney has finally admitted to Canadians just how screwed we truly are. This is just a desperate attempt to try one other method to get us out of this sinking ship. I'm Odessa Orlowitz with Liberty Talk Canada. Please like, subscribe, share if you're interested, and I will see you at the next one. Take care. Did you know if the banks do a bail-in, they can take the contents in your bank vault? But storing your gold and silver at home could be a huge security risk. Every day, our dollar is worth less and less. Inflation is stealing the only savings families have. Now more than ever, it's so important to hedge the savings you've worked so hard for. Banks have been failing all over the world, and social credit has all but arrived. But did you know you can do wholesale price vaulting and retail delivery from the most prestigious, reliable company in Canada? Did you also know if you decide to leave Canada, your gold and silver can be sent right to you after you arrive to your destination? The only company I personally use and trust are those awake guys at New World Precious Metals. Take control of your family's future. You can just click the link in my show description or type in the web address libertytalkcanada.ca/gold to get on their mailing list, attend their webinar, or book an appointment. Let them know Odessa sent you.
Restore Effects is the leader in professional paintless clear coat repair. Perfected over 2 decades, our product system surpasses traditional clear coat fixes to pave the future of vehicle reconditioning. Restore Effects permanently removes 99% of damage to your clear coat by replicating and restoring the original paint finish. Reset your vehicle's appearance or put your business fleet's best foot forward, all without repainting. Visit restoreeffects.com and find a center near you.